Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we are talking paperwork. Doesn't that sound so exciting? Who doesn't want to spend their day talking about paperwork? I can name a couple of hundred people that I know that wouldn't want to spend their day talking about that. However, it is an essential part of running your own business, and I've had quite a few of you ask me to do this exact video. So I thought, what better time to do it than when I'm actually working on the bulk of my paperwork for my own business. And that time is now being tax time. Good old taxes. I just finished them yesterday, so I felt confident to come up here and talk to you about it since I don't have to stress about finishing my own. I am done. It's gone. It's been emailed to the CPA and I have nothing else to do with it except probably write a check, but whatever. So what I'm going to do today is basically go through every step that I take from receiving a contract, booking a client, receiving payment, recording that payment, recording my receipts, filing those receipts, contracts, and payments, and then how I actually do my taxes. And I'm going to try to do this in the most concise way possible because I know no one wants to listen to this for 25 minutes, even though it is an absolute necessary part of owning your own business. Now, I'm going to say this once and I hope nobody comments on it. This is how I do it. I am only showing it because A, y'all have asked me to show you, and B, because I feel like a lot of people are just absolutely clueless. Honestly, if my husband hadn't run like 1,800 businesses before I started mine, I probably wouldn't have known what I know. It can be very overwhelming, especially when it's just you and all the responsibility falls on your shoulders. So this is how I do it. I just want to show you a guideline. You don't have to do it like this. You don't have to do anything that I do. I'm just filming this to show you how I do it. There are better ways out there, I'm sure, and there are ways that are not as good as mine, I am sure. That's what makes the world go round, people. So we are just going to start. Now, all of my filing for 2016 is not done. It is all in this stack right here. These are all my contracts, all of my receipts. This is my planner from last year, which is really important. And it's just because I had taken them all out of my filing system so that I could put them in one large filing folder, I guess you could say, and store them away in my past taxes paperwork files. A lot of people have asked me how long I keep a hold of my paperwork, and I normally, rule of thumb, it's like 7 years. So I've done that. Like I still have, I started this like 3 or 4 years ago, so I still have all my contracts and receipts from back then, and I won't get rid of any until probably 7 or 8 years have passed. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just grab a random contract off the top of my list. So this is from October 20th. I'm not going to hold it up too much because I don't want you to see personal information. But this is an October 20th client. This was a bride. She had a trial, excuse me, her makeup, her sister's makeup, her mom's makeup, and a travel charge. So that's all what's on this payment form. I've gone over my contracts before, so I will try to link that video if you want to go through it. But the payment form is what I put on top once it's all said and done. Now, I received the contract. Say she just emailed me. Get all this stuff off. She just emails me. I send her over the contract. She emails me back a contract, and she chooses to pay by check. I give my clients the opportunity for me to send them a PayPal invoice where they can pay through credit card or they can pay through a check. She chose to pay through a check, so she had to mail it back to me. So once I got this in the mail, I do two things. I obviously deposit the deposit check. That sounds random, but they do owe a 50% deposit to secure their date, which is required with their signed contract. So she sends this contract back. She gives me the 50% deposit. I deposit that through an app on my phone so that I can keep the check. The check then goes into my 2006, this is 17, but I had a 2016 envelope for checks. So then I have an actual hard copy of a check as well as the copy that my bank has on file from the deposit I made through the app. So that's 2 copies I have of the check. Then I go on to the contract and I look at where I'm going for the wedding. I put that address into Google Maps and I print the Google map out because you don't ever know what's going to happen with your app or your phone. You may be in a spot that doesn't have service, so you're not going to be able to get good directions. I've had plenty of weddings that were out in the boondocks, for lack of a better word, and there was absolutely no service. So you always want to have a backup of where you're going. So I take that Google map that I looked up and I print it out. I also put on top of the payment form how many miles I'm going round trip. So for this bride, it was 60 miles. That way when I go back into look at my contracts at tax time or at the end of the month, I know exactly how many miles I need to put in my mileage form, okay? And then what I do is I go through and look at the financials. Now, not everybody does this, and I get it, and I am certainly not tooting my own horn because this is just the way it's done in my house. I don't even think twice about it. I don't think it's me being amazing. It's just what I do. It's just what we do. And that's give 10% of everything we make. So I go through and I take out product cost. I have a set cost per face that I've come up with for how much product cost I use on that face. I'm not going to tell you how much it is because honestly, I don't want to steer you in one way or the other. This is something you need to decide for yourself. But after I take out that product cost, for instance, there were technically 4 makeup applications on this contract, 3 on the day of the wedding, and a trial. So I take 4 times my product cost and take it out of the total. That remaining balance, I'm getting all riled up. I just squeaked. That remaining balance, I take 10% out of that. And it goes directly to whatever I'm putting it towards, whatever charity, whatever church, whatever. But I do put that, however much that was, right under the mileage. So that also when I go onto my tax, I have a giving column that I can put that on. This is going to save you a ton of time when it comes to the end of the month, the end of the year, the end of the quarter, however often you go to your spreadsheet or whatever you use to determine your taxes for that month, quarter, year. It's going to save you a ton of time if you have all this stuff written on the contract anyways. So the day of the wedding comes. I take this physical contract with me. It is always in either the side pocket of my Zuka, on the very top of my duffel bag, or in my purse. This goes with me. I've never had an instance where I need to have a hard copy, but there may come a time where someone says, hold up, you were supposed to do my hair. Well, I'm sorry, Betty Sue or whoever, but let me pull out the contract and show you what you signed. And on my payment form, I always put wedding makeup, trial makeup, mother of the bride makeup. I always put makeup at the end so that they don't say, well, that meant hair too. I don't want to leave anything to question, okay? And like I said, I've never had to pull it out, but I always take it with me just in case. It always has the Google Maps printout on the back just in case. And then when I get home from the wedding, this contract, this is also where it goes before I go to the wedding, goes into my filing system, which y'all are just gonna be so impressed with what I use for my filing system. It's an expanding file folder. Isn't this so classy? It's empty because I just emptied it out for 2016. It's got a few contracts for this year. But that's what I do. I have months. I have January through December and the contracts go there. They stay in here all year until I take them all out after I've completed taxes and I file them away separately for good. That way you never, ever, ever have a question of where your contracts go. Now, I'm telling you all this because it really helps when we get to taxes. So I've done all that and I've probably made a few purchases that month too, okay? So I also have a separate Filofax expanding folder for receipts. Same thing, has the months, all that stuff. So whatever I have bought in January gets put into the January file. For instance, this is from January 21st to 2016 from Macy's, and it's when I bought the Anastasia Beverly Hills Glow Kit in that glow. That goes in, went in my kit the second I got it, and I have not taken it out. Therefore, I can write that off on taxes. When I buy stuff for myself, I don't write that off on taxes, okay? I don't cheat the system that way. It's only if I buy something specifically for my kit. This lives in my kit, so I kept this receipt. Now, when you buy something from a store, they always send you, from online, they always send you an automatic email that says, you know, thank you for your recent Macy's order, blah, blah, blah. I also, as well as keeping the physical receipt, I also always drag that email into my 2016 receipts folder on my email system. That way, if for some reason I lost this or I forgot to put it in my receipt file, when I go and double check it at the end of the month, I also double check these against the ones that I have saved in my email. That way I don't miss anything. So then all of these are my receipts. Yes, all of these are my receipts from 2016 on top of all of my contracts. Now, I'm going to show you what I use as far as software. I have a Mac computer or MacBook Pro Air, whatever, one of the Mac laptops. This is my computer where I keep everything business related, YouTube related, everything. Now, I don't have Excel for Mac. Like, I know you can buy that for like $200 or something and put it on your Mac. I don't have that because Mac has something called Numbers, and I'm going to pull it up. And it's basically Excel for Mac. And it's included in your Mac. It's there on your dock when you first get your Mac and set it up. So I have gone into Numbers, and I don't know how well this is going to translate over the screen, but I'm going to show you best I can. I'm not going to get, again, too close up just for personal client reasons, but this is basically my spreadsheet for my 2016 taxes. It says up here, Project Phase 2016 financials. I start at the end of every month. I go through my contracts. I go through my receipts. I pull them out, and I also take my planner. That's why I brought this up to show you. And I go to that month of my clients. It's all of anything that I received money for. When I receive that money, I also jot it down over here so that I have one more thing to check against. So I don't leave anything out that can benefit me or that can hurt me in case I was audited. So when I go at the end of the month, I always check everything against this. I check everything against my email, and I check everything against my contract. And then I put it into my document spreadsheet. Now, I have the date. I don't even know why I'm going to show you. I'm not even going to show you this. I'm just going to tell you what the columns are. You've seen what the spreadsheet looks like. Y'all all know what a spreadsheet looks like. The very left-hand side column is the date. I have the check number where I put my check number, the person who paid me that check, the client's name that will match up with the contract. For instance, if Betty Sue Jones has her daddy pay for the wedding and he's on the check, I still put Betty Sue Jones next to the check number because that's easier for me to cross-reference when I'm working with clients, to have only the client name. I can always go back to my checks and show my CPA or an auditor if they needed to, because I have kept all of my checks and all of my PayPal receipts. So I either put the check number or I put my invoice number on PayPal, and then I put the client's name. Then I put on the next column how much that check or invoice was for. The next column is a product or makeup column where I will put, for instance, on 2/23/16, I spent $15 at Bare Minerals. So I put Bare Minerals product makeup, and then the next column, product makeup cost, says $15. I separate those columns because it's easier to add them up when you just have numbers versus numbers and letters. And the next column is mileage. Now, you always want to check what the federal mileage is. For instance, in 2016, it was 54 cents per mile. So going back to this lovely client, I had 60 miles on there. So for her, I would put 60 times 0.54 in my phone, calculator, whatever, and that's how much I get to count off for mileage. So for instance, I had a client on 2/15/16, and my mileage that I could count off for her in that column is $35.42. So you always want to put that mileage in a separate column. My next column is an education expense. This is webinars that I may have purchased. This is master classes that I may have gone to. Any kind of continuing education is going to be an expense that you can write off on taxes. So that is the column that I put that in. The next column is promotional, i.e. Wedding Wire. This is probably the last year that I'm going to be on Wedding Wire. However, I did pay for it all of 2016, and I can write that off as promotional. So every month on the day it comes out, I think the 21st of every month, I put a separate tab in there, and in that column, I put how much I pay for Wedding Wire. Again, something else you can write off on taxes. The next column is checks I made out to others. You need to be careful on this that you don't go over the limit, the federal limit for a 1099. When I write them to others, it's when I work with hairstylists and we only use one contract. I rarely do that. I think in 2016, I only had 3 checks that I wrote to other people, but it's if I have an assistant come with me for makeup or if I work with a hairstylist and they don't do their own separate contract, I put it all through me, then I will write them a separate check. But that's going to come off of my income. Okay, so say I think I wrote about $1,000. No, I didn't. It's right down here. I've already totaled it up. I wrote $755 worth of checks to other people this year. So that is going to come off my total income because I didn't make it. Does that make sense? I wrote that check to someone else. It didn't go to me, so I shouldn't have to pay taxes on it. So that's just a separate one. The my giving has a separate column, so that adds up at the end of the year. And then my last column is website cost. When I have a host, whoever's hosting my website, and I have to pay them, or when I renew my website through my host, I have to pay them. This last year, that ended up being almost $300. So it adds up. You want to be able to take all of that off your taxes. Then all I do is do a simple formula. I highlight all the cells, I add them up. I have a totals tab at the bottom. I save it as a PDF and I shoot it to my CPA and I'm done. Okay, if she has any questions, I have all of my contracts, I have my planner, I have my checks, I have my receipts, I have everything in this stack, no questions asked. It's the best way that I have found to do taxes. It works for me. If there are other ways that work for you, by all means, do it. But I find this to be the easiest way. I choose to pay taxes yearly. You can set it up to where you pay taxes quarterly. If you do that, obviously you want to make sure that at least every 3 months you have the spreadsheet up to date. I find it easiest at the end of every month to go in and just do that month. That way, by the time you get to the tax season the next year, you don't have to do anything. You might have to go down and sum everything up, but that's it. Everything's done. It just makes more sense that way. But if you're a procrastinator, just make sure you don't lose any of this stuff. That you have a filing system you're confident with, that you keep it away from your dog so it doesn't get chewed up. You keep it away from your babies in case they're curious. You keep it somewhere where it is safe, okay? Preferably even in like a fireproof safe. If you have somewhere in your house that you keep things that really need to be taken care of in the case of the biggest emergency, this is pretty important. This is your business. This is your money. This is going to determine how much you pay the government every year, and it really needs to be kept safe. The only other thing I can say is that it is not worth trying to cheat the system. It's not. I've never done it because there's a big part of me that's like a goody two-shoes, and I have a conscience from, oh my goodness, my conscience. I just can't lie to save my life. I will lose sleep over it. I can't do it. And that's my personality. So I wouldn't even want to. It wouldn't even cross my mind. But I know a lot of people that's how they save money. Maybe at the end of the year, you don't have $1,000 to write to the government or, whatever. But I can tell you it's not worth it. They will find out. It might be 10 years down the road, but I'm telling you, they will find out. So you need to make sure you're doing it by the book. If you don't want to do it by the book, if you want to get paid under the table, don't get a tax ID number, just don't have a business. That's all I can say. Just don't have a business. And as boring as this stuff may seem, if you're a makeup artist, you do it for the love of the art. You do it for the love of your clients. You do it for the love of the business. And this is part of the business. So if you want to do something you love, if you're blessed enough to be able to do that, you're going to have to suck it up and do this kind of stuff. It's just the way the cookie crumbles. I don't know how else to say it. So if you have any questions, I think I roundabout went over everything I needed to. I'm sure I left something out that I'll come back and be like, oh crap, that's really important. If I did, I'll put it down in the description box as I always do. If you have any questions, be sure and leave them in the comment section. I hope this helped out some, especially to those who specifically asked for this video. If you haven't subscribed already, be sure and do and like this video if you enjoyed it. I don't want you to miss out on any future videos. And also tell me what you want to see in future makeup artist series videos. I am still currently on the hunt for a mature client, mother of the bride type client to do a video with. It's hard to find some that are comfortable with being in front of the camera. I will say that. So I am still in the search for that. I do plan on doing that. And there's a couple other ones that I have in mind, but also just leave your questions or your recommendations for videos down in the comment section. Thanks so much for watching, y'all. As always, I hope you have a very blessed day.